Hello and welcome to Access Asia. I'm Molly Hall. Coming up in the show, beef is off the menu in Western India. The government there bans the possession and sale of the red meat. Beijing has eased its one-child policy, but China's birth rate remains low. We look at why many parents are saying one is enough. And felines on the prowl. We'll visit a graying fishing community off the coast of Japan where cats outnumber humans 6-1. We begin with a controversial ban in India. The western state of Maharashtra recently made beef slaughter illegal. Well, under the law, anyone found selling the red meat or in possession of it can be fined or even jailed. Well, Hindu groups welcomed the ban, but it's been criticized by many.
This simple home-cooked beef recipe can now cost up to 5 years in prison. Throughout the state of Maharashtra, the possession and consumption of beef has been completely banned. For Ramona, it is still hard to accept that eating or cooking her favorite food is now technically a crime.
Evidently now I can be arrested for possession of beef while a disgusting man who harasses women can walk around and get minimal punishment. So it's stupid.
Leading the battle to ban cow slaughter in India are Hindu nationalists. Their struggle to protect the sacred cow has finally borne fruit. Except buffaloes, the killing and consumption of cows and bulls is now illegal. Religious music plays to relax its audience, the 2,000 cows that live here in this farm. It is managed by the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, an extremist right-wing organization. They have been fundamental in pushing for the ban, and today they rejoice their victory.
Since 2001, we've been fighting in the courts to shut slaughterhouses. Finally, things have changed. Now even a child can go to the police and say, a cow is going to be killed. You must act.
Almost 50 people, most of them volunteers, come here on a daily basis to feed, milk and wash the cattle. Atul is a student of commerce, but he spends all his free time here.
In Indian culture, cows are like mothers, since they feed us. Traditionally, they're considered holy, like gods. So, taking care of them is considered sacred work.
While the law itself is 20 years old, it had never previously been implemented. This sudden change will affect domestic and international economic activity adversely. In Mumbai alone, restaurants consumed up to 90 tons of beef in a day. But most of the business is export-oriented. India might be home to the sacred cow, but it is also the world's biggest exporter of beef along with Brazil. Deep inside Bombay is the Onar, the largest slaughterhouse in Asia. Previously, up to 1,000 cattle were killed here every day. The place now stands deserted, with almost 3,500 employees having been laid off.
We don't kill cows here anymore. Look, everything's empty. None of us have any work. There's nothing to earn. Even eating's become difficult. I have a family of 6 and nothing to give them, not even a rupee.
The ban doesn't stop at beef sector workers. It also affects farmers in the countryside who own cattle. Previously, aging cows were sold to slaughterhouses for a small income. With this, new cows were bought. With the ban in place, the families have no option but to donate the cow to a shelter and forego any earning.
It made us really sad to give our cow away. We raised it, and it cost us a lot of money. But we can no longer afford to feed him.
Despite the negative economic impact of the ban, Hindu nationalists are gearing up to take the same fight to all other states that still allow cow slaughter.
When Beijing announced it was relaxing its one-child policy in late 2013, many couples asked themselves whether they wanted a second baby. Well, under the new rules, couples are allowed another child if either parent has no siblings. And rural couples can have a second if their first child is a girl. Well, despite these changes, though, the answer for many parents is one is enough.
After each workday, Zhang Hao goes back to his apartment in an opulent-looking suburb of Shanghai. He works as an engineer for an American company. His wife quit her job to focus on their 10-year-old son's education. He was thinking about having a second child, which they're now allowed to have under China's new law, But for her, educating just one child is already a lot of money.
If we add up all the private lessons and activities, we spend around 650 euros a month. It's a lot. But it is less than lots of his friends who also have dancing lessons or play the piano to be more efficient and develop more skills.
The Chinese educational system is highly competitive, and many parents pay for private lessons to give their child a better chance at being accepted into a good school. It's a lot of pressure for the students, but also for their parents.
We don't have extra energy to help the other child to get the same process once again. We want this child to be perfect. If we can get this child to be perfect, then we want the second child even better than this one.
The academic success and later social success of their son is the top priority for these parents. They say they prefer to focus on the future of only one child to give him the best chance in life. And at the school, they're not alone in that thinking.
One kid is a lot of pressure. I don't want to have a second baby and experience this pressure for a second time.
Just one kid. It's enough for me.
Since the relaxing of the one-child policy in 2013, 90% of urban couples are now allowed to have a second child, but only 5% of them have asked for permission. At the maternity ward, the expected mini baby boom is late to come, and the Chinese parents still continue to prefer having a baby boy to take care of them in their old age. That's the word of this gynecologist who's noticed that among his patients.
If parents have a baby boy, they think they don't need a second child, even if they can have one. But if they have a baby girl, they mostly want a second child.
After decades of birth controls, the fertility rate in Shanghai has fallen to 0.8 children per woman. Hence, the most populous country on earth could soon start to lose its massive workforce to aging. With the working population decreasing, seniors could represent 25% of the Chinese population by 2030. And to try to correct this disequilibrium, this demographer is asking the government to make more significant measures.
The government has to stop the one-child policy and allow every couple to have a second child. But it also has to build more public kindergarten to help working parents. China needs to extend the maternity leave and create a paternity leave, and set up some tax cuts to encourage couples to have more children.
And to make matters worse, this year China celebrates the Year of the Sheep, an astrological sign with a bad reputation. Many superstitious parents prefer to avoid this sign for their child. One of the lowest natality rates in Shanghai was recorded in 2003, a sheep's year.
Now, size is no obstacle for Sayako Matsuo, the daughter of a former professional sumo wrestler. The 19-year-old often faces opponents twice her weight. But with determination and technique, Matsuo is clearing the ring as part of a small but growing number of female sumo wrestlers. Chris Moore reports.
Sumo, a cornerstone of Japanese culture. Sayaka Matsuo is one of a handful of women practicing an ancient sport, long seen as a man's game. Daughter of a professional wrestler, she first entered the ring aged 5.
The initial collision is the hardest thing. It hurts and it's easy to injure yourself. But if you don't practice, you can't become strong. It's the exercise I have the hardest time with.
Linked to the Shinto religion, the history of sumo wrestling stretches back some 2,000 years. Tradition forbids women from setting foot on the sacred ground of the Kokugikan Arena in Tokyo, where official competitions take place. But since 1997, female wrestlers have been allowed to take part in amateur bouts. Now there are calls for women's sumo to become an Olympic sport alongside the men's version, though that's unlikely to happen in time for the Tokyo Games in 2020.
When you think of sumo, you think of a sport reserved for fat men. We need to change this and show the world that women can also take part and appreciate this sport. Then we'll have more women participating.
A recent recruit is Anna Fujita. She started sumo 2 years ago and hasn't looked back since. She competes in the under 65 kilo category and dreams of changing perceptions. And one day, wrestling at the Kokugikan.
My principal challenge was to integrate myself and practice sumo with a group of men. It's still hard to erase the differences between the sexes, but it's the only thing to do. We need to alter the mindset in Japan.
Despite recent progress, boys still outnumber girls by 300 to 1 in junior sumo competitions. The fight for women's recognition in the ring is far from won.
Now, with no hotels, shops, or landmarks, Japan's Aoshima Island is certainly no tourist haven. But you won't hear any complaints from cat lovers. Well, the dwindling fishing community has only a handful of inhabitants, but there are more than 120 felines on the prowl. Mariam Saab takes us to Cat Island.
As far as islands go, this one's the cat's meow. On the Japanese island of Oeshim, or Cat Island, humans are a minority, outnumbered by felines 6 to 1.
Even before we entered the Heisei era almost 3 decades ago, the population had already fallen below 100. So after that, it slowly became just an island of elderly people and cats.
In its heyday, nearly 900 people lived on the island, but over the last 70 years, the population has declined as young people moved away. There are only ferries twice a day which link Aoshima to the rest of Japan, but that hasn't deterred cat lovers from getting their feline fix.
I came here looking to relax, and as for what it's like, well, there are a ton of cats, so I'd want to come again.
With no natural predators allowed, the feline force has multiplied since being brought over from the mainland to catch mice plaguing the fishing boats. So while it may be raining cats, there's a dog drought on Aoshim.
Well, that's it for this edition. We'll see you next time on Access Asia.